My name is Emily Madison, and I've spent most of my life being erased by the very people who were supposed to love me. At my brother's wedding, they didn't say my name once. Not in the seating chart, not in the toasts, not even when I walked in the door. But what they didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that I had a title. One that would silence every smirk and spin the entire night on its head. This isn't just a reunion. It's a revenge story written in medals, silence, and one perfectly timed salute. I arrived early, like always. It's a habit you can't break when you've been trained to move before the whistle. The venue was one of those countryside estates with white pillars and manicured hedges, the kind of place my parents loved to brag about, but never with me. I stepped inside wearing a simple slate gray cocktail dress, heels low, hair pulled back. I looked plain, civilian. And that was exactly the point. No one recognized me. Aunt Meredith brushed past with a fake smile. You're one of Nick's cousins, right? I nodded. Let her guess. The seating chart didn't list my name, just +1 next to some distant cousin. I found my spot near the kitchen doors, where waitstaff slipped in and out like ghosts. I sat quietly, napkin folded in my lap, watching champagne flutes clink in the distance. Then came the toasts. My father stood tall, rigid spine, suit sharp as ever. "Nick has always made us proud," he said, voice ringing through the ballroom. "He's brave, loyal, a natural-born leader. He's the son every father dreams of." He looked right past me. So did my mother, glowing beside him, nodding like a woman who'd never held a second child. Not once did they mention my name, not even a whisper. It was like I had never existed. And maybe, in their version of the story, I didn't. Maybe I had disappeared the moment I chose a different path. Not the path of pearls and marriage licenses, but boots, camouflage, and steel resolve. What they didn't know was this. They'd built a stage to honor their favorite child, and they'd accidentally placed me at the center of it. Because before this night ended, someone in that very room would say my name, loud, clear, and followed by a salute that would make every head turn. Not out of courtesy, but out of rank. I don't remember the exact day I gave up trying to impress my father, but I remember the moment I stopped hoping he'd see me. I was 17. The night before I left for West Point, the house smelled like cedar and bourbon, like always. Mom had cooked a quiet dinner, roast chicken, his favorite. Nick was already back in his room, gaming or texting whatever girl he was stringing along. I sat at the table in my neatly pressed clothes. I had shaved 10 seconds off my mile, memorized every regulation in that admissions packet. I had done everything right, everything by the book. But when I told Dad I got my acceptance letter, he didn't say congrats. He didn't stand up. He didn't even look surprised. He just swirled the amber in his glass and said flatly, "It's a political move. They let more girls in now. Just don't embarrass yourself." I stared at him like he'd slapped me. Maybe I wished he had. At least that would have felt honest. Then, like he was already bored with the topic, he added, "You're not built for it. You're good with people, sure. Maybe logistics. But combat? Emily, you fold laundry like it's a ceremony. You cry when a bird hits a window." That line stuck with me for years. I cried when a bird hit a window because it was alive, and because nobody else in that house did. Sometimes, I wonder how many people out there had fathers like mine, people who thought they were protecting us by holding us back. If you've ever had someone tell you, "You're not enough," drop it in the comments, because I swear those voices never really go away. They just get quieter until you can outmarch them. That night, after dinner, I sat on the porch alone. No send-off, no proud photos, no hand on the shoulder. Just a half-warm, "good luck," tossed from behind the front door. I tied my boots myself, zipped my bag myself, got in a cab and watched my house grow smaller through a fogged-up window. And right then, I made a decision. If he wanted me to prove him wrong, I would, but not for him. Not so he'd clap at my graduation or frame a photo of me in uniform. I'd do it because I knew who I was, even if they didn't, even if they never did. And when I finally earned that rank, I wasn't going to tell them. I was going to let the world tell them for me. West Point was colder than I expected. Not just the weather, though the wind cut through every layer I owned, but the silence, the pressure, the isolation. There were nights I'd sit on the edge of my bunk, my boots still muddy, socks soaked through, wondering if maybe my dad had been right, that maybe I didn't belong, that maybe this place, the formations, the drills, the exhaustion, would finally break me. But it didn't, because I wasn't just trying to survive West Point. I was surviving the version of me they'd tried to burn out years ago. The first year was the worst. I learned how to run on blisters, how to swallow blood after a fall, how to keep marching when your legs feel like sandbags. I learned how to keep my face still when a superior officer screamed inches from it, and I learned how not to flinch. But what I remember most, what I still remember, are the letters, or rather, the lack of them. Other cadets got postcards, care packages, notes from home. I got nothing. Not even a "we're proud of you." Not even a joke from Nick. Just silence. Once, Mom sent a birthday card. It arrived late. The envelope was already opened. Inside, she'd written, "Hope you're doing okay. Dad says hi." That was it. No love. No "we're rooting for you." Not even a photo. Just a reminder. You're on your own. So I built myself from the ground up. I climbed every rank I could. I studied harder, trained longer. When they assigned me overseas, I took it. When the nights got brutal, I didn't blink. And somewhere along the way, something shifted. I stopped wanting my father's approval. I stopped imagining that one day he'd turn up, shake my hand, say, "You proved me wrong." Because I knew he wouldn't. People like him never do. They don't change. You do. By the time I turned 30, I'd led my first unit through enemy territory and back. At 32, I commanded a rescue operation that saved 43 soldiers trapped behind a collapsing front. No backup, no air cover, just instinct, grit, and a voice that didn't shake when I gave orders. That's when the Army started calling me Colonel Madison. But my parents, they still called me the difficult one. They didn't ask what I did. They didn't want to know. They were too busy telling neighbors about Nick's new car. And I stayed quiet, because I was saving my voice. For the moment, they'd have no choice but to listen. The reception hall was everything my parents loved. White marble floors, chandeliers dripping in crystal, a band playing Sinatra like they were paid per note. It was elegant, polished, expensive, and somehow I still felt like I didn't belong. When I arrived, Mom gave me that tight-lipped smile she always saved for people she wished hadn't shown up. "You made it," she said, eyes already scanning the room behind me. "Try not to wear those boots you like so much, okay?" I didn't respond. I just handed her the simple box I'd wrapped for Nick and kept walking. No hug, no "you look nice." Just a quick glance down at my gray dress and a sigh that said, "This again?" I found my seat near the back, table 9, next to the kitchen doors. All the important guests were up front. Family friends, Nick's colleagues, neighbors who used to call me Ellen by mistake. I wasn't even listed in the program, and when the slideshow started, photos of Nick growing up, clips of him graduating, goofy videos from college. I watched the whole thing in silence, even when one of the clips showed me, maybe 12 years old, helping him climb a tree in our backyard. They edited that part out, cut right before I entered the frame. I didn't say a word, because I wasn't angry. I was just done. Done hoping they'd see me. Done waiting for a moment that would never come from them. Then the music changed. The host stepped up to the mic holding a small envelope in his hand. He looked confused at first, then cleared his throat and smiled. "Ladies and gentlemen, before the next toast, we have a brief recognition ceremony for someone very special among us tonight." The room shifted. Conversations paused. The host continued, his voice growing more formal. "This guest is being honored, belatedly, for an extraordinary act of courage and leadership during Operation Iron Dagger. This person led a mission that saved 43 soldiers under active fire. And today, the military wanted to make sure she receives her due." Waiters stopped moving. The violinist froze mid-note. I felt my pulse thudding under my collar. Then he said it. Colonel Emily Madison, would you please stand? Every head turned, every glass paused mid-air, and for the first time in my life, my name didn't echo as an afterthought. It landed like a thunderclap. For a half second, no one moved. Then came the sound of a chair scraping, then another, then silence. It wasn't a polite, "Oh, how lovely" silence. It was stunned, frozen. What did we just hear? Silence, like the room had exhaled and forgot how to breathe. I stood slowly, smoothing the skirt of my dress. My heels echoed sharp against the marble as I stepped into the light. A soft gasp from somewhere in the crowd. Someone dropped a fork. I could feel it, every eye in the room snapping toward me. Some blinking, some staring, some, my father, refusing to even lift his chin. A cluster of uniformed officers stepped forward near the front doors. Leading them was Captain Briggs, one of my former trainees, now dressed crisp and solemn. He stopped 5 feet in front of me, clicked his heels together, and raised a sharp salute. "Colonel Madison," he said, voice ringing, "it's an honor." And then, one by one, the others behind him saluted too, not because they were told to, because they knew who I was. And now, so did everyone else. Captain Briggs turned to the crowd, voice calm but commanding. This recognition was supposed to happen 3 weeks ago, but Colonel Madison had declined a formal ceremony. She didn't want the attention, but the Pentagon insisted. So we brought the ceremony here. He reached into his jacket and produced a small black case, snapped it open. Inside gleamed the Silver Star, third highest military decoration for valor in combat. Gasps again, choked laughter from someone too embarrassed to pretend they weren't shocked. "For courage under fire," Briggs said, pinning the medal carefully just above my heart, "and for saving 43 lives under enemy assault." It was done in under 2 minutes. But the after? That stretched longer. The crowd was still frozen when Briggs stepped back. I turned toward the tables, scanning faces. My mother's mascara had smudged under her eyes. She held her napkin in both hands like she might wring it in half. My father finally looked at me, but not like he looked at Nick. He looked like a man watching a stranger take the stage at his own retirement party, like someone realizing just a little too late that he'd bet on the wrong child. He stood, cleared his throat, started walking toward me. I didn't move. He paused halfway across the room, opened his mouth like he might say, "I'm proud of you," or maybe, "I was wrong." But then, he didn't say anything at all, because what could he possibly say? The room already said it for him. I nodded to Briggs. He saluted once more, then turned and led his unit out the way they came. Their boots marched in perfect rhythm, every step echoing like punctuation, like a door slamming shut. I sat down again, at table 9 near the kitchen, still in the same seat. But now, no one could pretend I didn't exist, not anymore. The music started up again, but it felt different now, tentative, like even the violins were unsure of their place in the room. People tried to pick up their conversations, glasses clinked, someone let out a forced laugh near the dessert table, but the energy had shifted. It was like a glass had shattered, and everyone was stepping carefully, pretending they hadn't heard it break. I sat quietly at my table near the kitchen, the Silver Star resting against my chest like a truth no one could edit out this time. No one came to talk to me, not yet, but no one looked through me either. They saw me now, and for some of them, it clearly made them uncomfortable. Nick approached first, still in his tux, still slightly flushed from too many champagne toasts. He offered a crooked smile. "Colonel? Seriously?" he muttered, slipping into the seat next to me. "How the hell did you keep that quiet?" I gave him a look, the kind that says you weren't paying attention. He leaned back in the chair, running a hand through his hair. "Damn, Em, that was, 43 people?" I didn't need his awe, but I didn't hate it either. For a moment, we just sat in silence, side by side, 2 grown-up siblings who drifted so far they forgot what it was like to share air without tension. Then he asked, quieter this time, "Did Mom and Dad know?" I shook my head. They never asked. Later, I stepped outside for some air. The garden lights were soft and golden, casting long shadows over the hedges. My heels clicked against the stone pathway as I wandered toward the back patio, away from the buzz of the party. That's when I heard him. My father. His voice low, measured, still trying to control the room even when there were only 3 people left in it. "She could have told us," he was saying to someone, probably my mother. "We weren't against her, we just didn't think she'd make it that far." I stopped just out of sight. Didn't think I'd make it that far? Like I was a project that failed upward, like surviving hell and earning every stripe was just a happy accident. That was the moment it hit me. Not as a slap, but as a quiet, irrevocable truth. He wasn't sorry. Not really. He was just caught off guard. And honestly, that hurt less than I expected. Because at some point, I'd stopped needing him to be proud. I had already outgrown that version of myself. I left without saying goodbye. Slipped out the side gate while they were cutting cake. No drama, no speeches, just the sound of my own steps, steady and free. As I drove back into the city, metal tucked gently in my coat pocket, I glanced at my reflection in the rearview mirror, and for the first time in my adult life, I didn't see the daughter who wasn't enough. I saw a woman who didn't flinch. I saw a woman who made it, not in spite of her family, but in the silence they left behind. If you've ever been made to feel small in a room where you should have belonged, if your voice was ignored, your work unseen, or your name left off the list, tell me in the comments. Seriously, where were you overlooked? And how did you rise anyway? Because someone out there needs to hear your revenge story too. I'll be reading every one of them. You're not alone. Not anymore.